Hello, today's video tutorial is on progressions and how to create your own progress chart and what to do with it. So first let me show you how to create. I'm not going to say anything about the actual progress chart until we actually see one. It will be easier. So to create your progress chart, you go to free horoscopes. This is astro.com, by the way. I always only use astro.com. So you go to free horoscopes and then you go all the way down to extended chart selection, right? You see here. You click on that. This is you, meaning, or if it's not, you then would have many other people that you select your name here. I only have this one dummy person, as it were. Someone's birthday. I'm sorry if they ever listen to this, watch this video, but I don't know anyone. It was literally like just random collection of numbers that I made into a birthday. So that's for the purpose of this video. This is you, right? So you make sure you're here, horoscope 4, right? Your name there. And then it's here. So at this stage, your chart type is what you want to make sure that it's progress. So you scroll all the way down and there are two options. There are progressions, so there are a few options, but I'll start with this one, natal and progress chart. So it gives you both. You can see where you natally are and then how different your progress chart looks. And what's very important is the time. So I'm going to leave today's date because there will be some progressions showing on this person's chart. But you could play, however many decades in the future. You can play back in the past. But it's important, this is where you kind of see the progress, literally, by adjusting the time. And house system, I think I use usually for these tutorials, use default, which is Placidus. Personally, I use either whole signs or Porphyry, but it's neither here nor there, it doesn't matter for this video. I always tick descending node so that you can see what, otherwise it doesn't show. I mean, it's exactly opposite the north node, but it's just, for me, it always helps when it's like visually there. I don't have to think and trying to work out or whatever. So, and then aspects to Chiron. If you particularly don't care for Chiron, then don't do it because it will only confuse you. You'll have only too many lines and it will just look too busy. But if you're pre-first Saturn return, maybe, yeah, it's not necessary so much to understand your Chiron, though even then I'd say if you're into astrology, you want to understand, how to work with your chart and what it says about you, I would say look into your Chiron, even though you're miles away, decades away from your Chiron return, and particularly if you have any personal planets conjunct your Chiron, or any planet really. Okay, so you click on Chiron there, and I'm going to leave it at that. There are obviously all these asteroids, and then you can add manual ones. I usually work with BML, Black Moon Lilith, which is H13, and yeah, you have a whole list of them here, but that's another topic. So you got everything. Let's click to show the chart. So you can see natal chart and progressions for 26th of August 2020. That's your name there. And progressions, so you see the chart is your normal chart, as if you were just looking at your natal chart, but all these green little hieroglyphs, the planet signs basically, are in green on the outside of your chart. And there, as you can see here, the key is, the green is abbreviated word for progressions. And so that's how you kind of, if you're not too sure, just scroll down to make sure you check against the key, basically the legend. Let me just minimize this first. So what is a progress chart? It's a chart that moves your natal placements one day for a whole year. So an example, if your sun is natally at 14 degrees Leo and you were born 1985, your progress chart in 1986 will have moved your sun to 15 degrees Leo. By the time you're age 16, your progressed sun, will have moved into a new sign, which is Virgo. And that particular event when your progressed sun changes a sign, is usually very pivotal and important, and certainly highly felt moment in your life. Now, this is even more so if your 1 degree or 0 degree Virgo is on your ascendant, or is on your MC, or is on another planet. Your natal planet is there, that before this year your sun didn't have any communication with, in the sense that they were not in conjunction, or they were not in any tight orb aspect. So the moment your progressed sun enters Virgo, in this story of mine, at the age of 14, and this is not even the person we're looking at the chart here, sorry, I'm really not good with maths, so this example I'm talking about is far easier to kind of think on my feet with, but you're getting the gist. So at the age of 16, this person would experience a very different sense of identity. It could be subtle, or it doesn't have to be subtle. I certainly know in my experience it was not. But also in my life, the most recent one was sextiling Saturn. It was squaring Uranus, so my natal Uranus. So when you have a progressed planet that changes signs, and at the same time aspects your natal planet, particularly in a hard aspect, particularly a planet like Uranus or Pluto or Saturn, or even any really planet in your chart, you are definitely going to feel it. But if it's kind of like a quiet transition, maybe not so subtle, not so loudly, like I say. But it will definitely mark a new chapter in your identity. So we're sticking with the sun story here. So it's your identity, the persona, the way you shine, the way you express yourself. All of this will change flavor, and will change a shade. It will change basically. Or another example, if your sun was 0 Cancer, then every 30 years you will change your sun, your progressed sun will change signs. So I think typically, I haven't done research or even studied this much because it just doesn't interest me, but I think essentially you can have up to 3 changes. I think that's pretty standard. 2, 3. I think you might even be able to have 4, depending what degree you're born of a sign. So, but don't quote me on this. But you'll definitely have at least 2, and I'm pretty sure that you'll have 3. And you can play with this, with the whole kind of dates changing. You can figure out yourself how many you are gonna have changes in your identity. They may be, like I say, radical, depending what kind of signs we're talking about, and whether the aspects particularly hard aspect, any of your natal planets. So in the case of this person I'm using as my dummy client, as it were, you can see that she was born with 29 degrees Cancer. So within the first year or second year or something of her life, she would have changed. Her progressed sun would have gone into Leo. And then at this stage in her life today, she is 1 degree Virgo. So she's already been through 3 signs, and she is, 30 something, 34, 5, born 1986. I literally cannot figure out quickly how old she is. So anyway, but based on this, if the progressed sun moves a degree per year, and we had a whole Leo and just a bit of Cancer and a bit of Virgo, and I'm still being very vague. I think this lady is 33, 4. It sounds very young given the age, but maybe, like I say, I'm just so not good with these think on my feet numbers kind of thing. But anyway, so she would have definitely felt the 0 degree, and then 29 degree of the previous sign, and then the 0 are the most intensely felt degrees as your progressed sun moves across them. So that would be the first most important, the most significant value of progressions and progress chart, to figure out, to see when your sun or any other planet will change signs, as well as your ascendant, descendant, obviously, and then midheaven and so they change at the same time, midheaven and IC and AC and DC. But yeah, so those angles, as well as your personal planets, or any planet really, is just that the heavyweights move far slower, and they're hardly going to be moving much really, unless they're the very end of at the very end degree of a sign, or maybe then, right? But otherwise, it's fascinating to observe the changes in signs of your other progressed planets, like more personal, like Sun, Moon in particular. I'll get to Moon in a moment. Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, even Saturn. Can possibly also. Well, no, Saturn. Yeah, again, unless it's at the very end of a sign. But these other ones, changing signs, are significant new chapters in that archetypal living of yours. So if it's a Venus, your relationships will change flavor. They will change the way you go about them. And because it's a 30-year chapter, it's a slow, subtle, but therefore quite deeply reaching and all-encompassing kind of change that you will be integrating slowly but surely in all of those planets, those archetypes, right? The same goes with your nodal axis as well. So essentially what you're looking at the changes in the sign, and you're looking at when progressed planet aspects your natal planet or angle. Those are particularly conjunctions and squares and oppositions are particularly potent and significant and meaningful, and could well be markers of changes, like big radical changes in your life, or just big changes, life changes. And in fact, I think kind of traditionally progressions are used or have been used for kind of predictions, like a predictive astrology. So certainly you can play with that if that's your gig. So by now you probably got a sense that really the faster moving the planet, the more interesting her or his progressed journey is for you, and the more meaningful and the more significant. So therefore, obviously, Moon is probably the most interesting planet to follow, archetype to follow as it moves through your chart. Progressed Moon, as it moves through your natal chart, but also through your progress chart. And this journey of your progress Moon is your journey of maturation, and you will have. So it takes 28 days for Moon to go around the zodiac and all signs. So that's 28 years. It's not exactly. It's up to probably 30 maybe. So you'll have at least 2 progressed Moon returns. So if you are approaching 30, so this is kind of coincides usually with Saturn return, but not to the date. It all depends again on your personal chart and the progressed movement, but it's near enough. And the first progressed Moon return is around the age of 30, give or take a few years, and or a couple of years maybe just. And so if you're at that stage in your life, I would highly recommend you, if you're approaching your progressed Moon, I'll give you a link, or not a link, I'll give you a title and the details of the book that I use as a great reference book to kind of track my Moon journey, my progressed Moon, and just figure out where I am in my process of maturation. And it really is such a wonderful tool in the dark of the moon. Meaning at night, being moon is like, the night kind of creature, to track this map of where you are deepening, where you're strengthening, where you are adulting, where you're taking more responsibility, where you're asked to take more responsibility about how you're feeling, for your feelings, right? For your needs, for your own sense of security and safety. All those moon themes are being asked as he moves through the zodiac for you to take good and hard look at those themes of that sign. And then how can you own those emotions that you will be feeling? I mean, just think about it. How amazing it is that we get to experience all moons. So yes, you might be natally like this lady here, moon in Aquarius, but her progress moon is in Taurus. So I'll get in a second on what aspects to look for particularly. But so it's like this year and for a couple or so years, at least 2 to 3 years, she will be grounding her crazy energies of Aquarius, like potentially too high voltage, will be finding some deeper grounding and settling. And I imagine, but that could also be, triggering all kinds of other, I want to be free, or I need to, I don't want to be on my own, I don't want to be possibly single, just throwing it out there, literally as it comes to me. Basically, there could be conflict, but also the gift will be there to because it's a square, right? The conflict and the crisis. But the gift is to experience moon in its exalted place, which is in Taurus. Moon is exalted in Taurus, so it's like extra home. It's like a stable home. It's like idyllic family from the fairy tales. Well, not fairy tales maybe, but from children's stories that our parents or someone would read to us to fall asleep, or just whatever we watched as children, like those cartoons, like those ideal families. So that's, you will be arriving, this person, this client here on the screen that you're looking, will be experiencing those feelings for the first time, or second time if this is, depending on her age, I think it's first time. Anyway, first or second, it doesn't matter. But if it's second, then it gets even deeper. You get, to a new whole vista of moon in Taurus that you haven't in your first round. And if you haven't done the work, or you kind of haven't learned the lessons, or haven't done this consciously, this is why astrology is fantastic, as I'm sure if you're watching these videos you agree with, is to just be intentionally and engaging and being aware, acutely aware where we are at in our journey, so that we aid that journey, we support ourselves on that journey, and we use and make the most of the support given to us by having a progressed moon in Taurus, for instance, in this case. And as for the aspects, so if you like, in her case, so she would be particularly wise to pay attention at the moons in Taurus, Scorpio, and Leo. And yes, as they approach the actual degree of her 11 degree of Aquarius, so 11 degree Scorpio, Leo, Taurus, even more so. But even while they're in those signs, those chapters in her life will be particularly maturing and deepening, and she will be developing her own authority and self-responsibility like never before. So you can kind of generally know every 2-3 years your progressed moon will change signs, but going into astro.com and really just playing with those dates on the previous screen when you set up this chart with all your requests, south node, descending north node, etc. Then once you've done that, then you go on that screen, you can actually change those dates, and I would highly recommend to just get a sense of what's been going on and what's coming your way, and all these changes in signs, and when progressed planet touches on your own natal planet by opposition, conjunction, or square, pay attention. Pay attention, investigate, study those archetypes, the new sign, revisit your natal planet, revisit, read up all about. So by the time her moon, in this case, her sun comes to join her Venus, she would be reading Sun, Venus conjunct, Sun, conjunct Sun in Virgo, Sun conjunct. No, there are actually just two archetypes there, sorry. But yeah, so all the permutations, Mars in Virgo as well, being that it's a first house. So also Leo in first house, even though it's in Virgo, but the Sun in first house could be Leo flavor. So Leo in first house. So she would be wise to research and study those permutations and those archetypes in this way. To start to notice how actually her identity feels all of a sudden comfortable in those new clothes that she never would have maybe considered before that are her type or her style or her fashion. And then the same goes for the moon, but for the moon you want to be checking this every year. Want to be keeping tabs on it, or just map it out for yourself, like on a big A1 size sheet, and just a few years in advance, just kind of those dates, note them, important ones, when it meets your planet and when it changes signs and when it squares to itself or opposition to itself, or the last quarter square to itself, natal position, right? And by sign, but also by degree. So all of these are so important. Now, the best part for me personally, or rather where I'm most excited about, because my waiting list is huge. So if you have your personal planets like Venus, Mercury, Mars, and yeah, that's basically it. If they are retrograde in your natal chart, then progressions are fantastic to figure out, to find a date or time, when these planets are going to go direct. But don't be alarmed, because I was, and I remember freaking out, looking everywhere, trying to figure out why that's happening, and then I figured out that it's actually normal. Well, it's just what my particular chart is. So if, like, I have Mars retrograde, and at my time of birth, Mars was just stationing retrograde, and Mars, of all the personal planets that are listed, is the slowest. So for my natal Mars retrograde and my progressed Mars to turn direct, I'm gonna wait till, I think it's 63, age 63, my progressed Mars will turn direct. And that will be I imagine that to be the event of my life, and the one I feel like I'm building up to anyway, because of the ultimate acting on something that has been built up until that point. So you may have similar, like your Mars was stationing retrograde when you were born, or Venus or Mercury. So they're slightly, you won't have to wait 63 years because they move a bit faster. But yeah, if it sounds like a lot of years, it's because of that. You will also notice that, like my Pluto, my Uranus, all my other planets, apart from Neptune, I think, and I have most of my planets, I have 5-6 planets at retrograde. So other than my Mars, all the others have gone direct, meaning even the heavyweights, depending where they are in their retrograde journey, will turn direct, likely. If they, like I say, unless they have stationing direct and it's Pluto stationing retrograde. So then maybe not. Maybe you'll never experience your Pluto going direct. Like I say, depending on where it is. So play with the dates in your progressed chart, and see when any retrogrades you have will go direct. And we all have at least 1 or 2 retrogrades, and it's usually all the big ones: the Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune. So check out if they will be changing direction in your progressed chart, and then take note of those dates. And if that's already happened, look back at that time. What was going on? What changes? So typically the change would then be from retrograde to direct. Whatever you've been collecting data on, revisiting, reviewing, revising, refining, refine-tuning, retuning, remaking, redoing, all the re's. So all their work will finally be will finally arrive at the fruition and completion, and you can now move forward with whatever those themes are of the archetype of the planet, right? So that's for me particularly why progressions are fantastically exciting, especially like if like me, you have many retrogrades. So it's okay, when is it gonna go forward? And it's really kind of, it's more about the excitement, because I love my retrogrades. It's just like it's a change of gear, and a big time change of gear. So that's the kind of excitement. So I recommend it for that as well. And that's that on progressions. So hopefully this was interesting, and I do hope you have fun figuring out and working with your own progress chart.